today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about
the impact of constant criticism as a form of self-sabotage in marriage. The fact is that criticism is usually a two-way street. It's not about what the other person is saying, it's about what those voices inside you are saying. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship, and today we're talking about breaking the cycle of criticism. And I know as you're listening to this, you're thinking, if only they would stop criticizing me. I know you're thinking that, right? That's where we all go when we hear this. The fact is that criticism is usually a two-way street, and the real sabotage of the marriage through criticism is an inside job. That's right. It's not about what the other person is saying. It's about what those voices inside you are saying. And that's what we're going to hit today. We're going to talk about what's it like to be in a marriage that's filled with blame, frustration, and anger on both sides, and especially what is driving that? What is the inner voice in those of us who are engaged in this kind of relationship that drives the cycle of blame? We want you to, first of all, be able to identify and distinguish helpful criticism from destructive criticism, externally and internally. Second of all, we want to give you some tools for deflecting criticism if you feel it's coming at you, and for managing that critical voice within yourself. And third, we want to give you some goals for becoming self-led in your individual self and in your marriage. That's where we're going today. Examples. I'm actually particularly sensitive about this topic. I'm sensitive about it because I'm married to someone who hears criticism even when I don't intend to be speaking it. That's right. What happens when you say something in the most responsible way possible and it's received as criticism? It makes it really difficult to communicate. And it's not unusual for my partner to speak in a way that actually is critical as well. There's an inner critic there. And like everyone in a relationship, I'm really good at taking her inventory, but maybe not so good at taking my own. So let's start with what's happening on the inside. Inside of all of us, there is a multitude of voices. It might be a chorus, it might be a congress, it might be a cacophony of voices. These are the voices of different parts of ourselves that feel like victims, parts of ourselves that are protectors, parts of ourselves that are here to guide us and teach us, parts of ourselves that think they know better. And very often these parts are grounded in an age that we're not. These are the voices of 7-year-old you, the voice of 12-year-old you, the voice of 16-year-old you, the voice of 22-year-old you, and so on and so forth. It might be the voice of your mom. It might be the voice of your dad. And if you grew up with a particularly critical parent, as many of us did, that critical voice will either be the voice of your parent, or it'll be a part of you that is trying to protect the rest of you from a critical voice like your parent. How does that part protect the rest of you from a critical voice like your parent? Anytime it identifies a voice that resembles the voice of your parent, that part will come out, and usually in a critical way, by the way. These voices were necessary and helpful for us in our childhood. They are often destructive in our marriage and primary relationships. The truth is that we develop strategies and patterns for functioning within our upside down families as children that in our personal development and growth as partners in our own marriage need to be rooted out and rerouted. Yeah, you thought I was going to say rooted out and killed. No, they need to be rooted out, exposed, and redirected. A lot of the work that we do with people in mental and emotional release is about identifying parts that are in contradiction with one another and helping them to find out that they want the same thing and redirecting them so that they can accomplish the same thing. The impact of having consistent destructive criticism in your dynamic, in your marital dynamic, is that over time, the sense of intimacy evaporates. When there is a critical dynamic, trust is broken. When there's a critical dynamic, there's a lack of safety. When there's a critical dynamic, communication breaks down. And when communication breaks down, there isn't complete honesty. We may think that we're being honest when we're being critical. Hey, there's something I need to tell you. The other day, when you did this, it made me feel a certain way, and that just can't go on. We feel we're being really honest, but that's not complete honesty. Anytime that we say to someone, they're making us feel, we are telling a lie. First, we're telling a lie to them. We're telling them that our feelings are their responsibility. And second, and probably more importantly, we're telling a lie to ourselves. We're telling ourselves that person is so powerful that they can make me sad. They can make me angry. They can make me feel hurt. They can make me happy. What do we really mean when we're saying this? What we really mean is that a part of us is having an emotional reaction to the other person and it feels out of control, and therefore it must be the other person that's doing it. When we look at ourselves through a rational lens, however, we know that there's a variety of emotions available to us. Got distracted there for a second. There's a variety of emotions available to us, and we get to choose which emotion we're going to roll with. That sounds really oversimplified or simplistic, doesn't it? But think about when you are in your most centered state, where you feel most like yourself, and you're driving your car and someone cuts you off. And when you're in your most centered self, you go, wow, they must be in a hurry. Another part of you, on the other hand, is going, I can't believe they did that to me. And another part is going, oh my God, what if somebody does that and I don't notice and they hit me? All these parts are coexisting within us at the same time. All these emotional reactions exist within us at the same time. And when we're in our most centered, best self, we acknowledge those other parts. Oh, yeah, I can see how that could be scary. Oh, yeah, I can see why you might be angry. But really, it's all good. We got this. But when we're in our most triggered self, when our emotions are high, our amygdala's fired up, we're in fight, flight, or play dead, and somebody cuts us off, we might want to go get them and maybe gesture at them or yell at them or even get out of the car. That used to be my favorite, was get out of the car. It's really a matter of where are we in ourselves. And that matter of where we are in ourselves has a lot to do with which voice is dominant. I got a dog who's chewing on a bone here, so pardon the background noise if you're hearing it. He's chewing on a bone. We're chewing on this bone of criticism together. When our highly critical voice is active and somebody cuts them off, we're much more likely to be in a go get 'em kind of mood. That voice that is always looking for fault in us brings up a lot of sensitivity in us, and therefore we tend to direct it outward at others. And that, my friends, is a form of self-sabotage. When our inner dialogue is, why can't I get this right? Why aren't I perfect? Why haven't I gotten it right? I never get this right, blah, 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 blah. All that negative critical stuff. We can only stand so much on the inside, and we start to direct it out. And it starts to show up as criticism. It starts to show up as blame. It starts to show up as misdirected frustration. And that is a relationship killer. I can't tell you how many couples I work with, married and getting divorced, who are focused on a unified goal, and their sense that they have to protect themselves. That other person must be attacking them, and they have to protect themselves. And they get very critical of that other person. Why are you trying to take my money? Why are you trying to take my home? Why are you stealing the children from me? That sense of protection comes out as, you are so selfish. You are so thoughtless. You're a thief. You're a liar. It comes out as judgment. It comes out as destruction. And it shatters anything that people are trying to build together. It's the ultimate form of self-sabotage. All right, so we called out the behavior. We've called out how it shows up. We've called out that it's really an inside job, and that when we're at our best, we might see those parts of ourselves reacting without being triggered, without our amygdala going into fight, flight, or play dead. What can you do when it's coming at you? Let's say you're in a really good place and it's coming at you all the time. The other person is in blame and anger all the time. There's some great tools that we give people here at Rich in Relationship. They're very common. You can find them on the internet. There's something called committed listening, which is where when somebody's feeling very upset, you focus on one feeling and one fact that they're experiencing. Someone comes to you and says, when you take that time with the kids and exclude me, I feel so put out. I feel like you're trying to steal the kids away from you. It makes me so mad. If you were the committed listener, you would say, wow, seems like you're angry when you feel like I'm trying to take the kids away from you. You talk about them and their experience and their feeling. They go, that's right. That's what I'm feeling. And when you do that, it doesn't make them right, by the way. It doesn't make them wrong. It's just a form of acknowledging and validating what they're feeling. And the criticism, the attack will come down a notch. And if you keep doing that, it'll come down a notch until eventually it chills out. Or if you're feeling triggered yourself, another tool you can use are I statements. I feel frustrated when you take time with the kids and don't invite me because my parents used to do that with my brother and I felt so excluded all the time, and it brings up all those feelings from my childhood. When you use an I statement, you talk about a feeling, what is triggering the feeling, when, the situation that's triggering the feeling, and what is going on inside of you. What is it about you? What's the reference point in you that reminds you of that feeling? It's not about, I statement is not this. I feel so frustrated when you take time with the kids because you are clearly trying to steal them from me and I hate you. That is not an I statement. That's twisting an I statement into a form of blame. These tools are not hardwired into most of us. They require practice. If you want if you want some sheets on this, reach out to me and I'll be happy to share them with you, rich@richinrelationship.com, or set up a call with me on the Rich in Relationship website, RICHRELATIONSHIP.com. You'll find a couple of places where you can schedule a free call with me and we can talk about the tools and how to use them. All right, so part one is deflecting. Actually, part one is managing our own inner critic, and part two is deflecting or bringing down criticism when it's coming from others. How do you set it up so that you can heal these inner voices? There are a number of ways to do it. We have a technique called mental and emotional release here that's super helpful. There's other tools called parts integration that helps these parts to come into harmony. We can help you with any and all these tools, or I would highly recommend reading the book there or listen to the book. There Are No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. It's a book about internal family systems, and it explores in more depth the idea of the chorus or cacophony of voices in your head, body. And Mr. Schwartz even gives ways that you can start to acknowledge these parts and work with them on your own and with an IFS trained professional. The most important tool, however, is first to just acknowledge that these voices are present. Just acknowledge first. I would say if before you do anything, start taking inventory of every time there's a critical voice within you where maybe you stub your toe and you go, damn it. Or you miss an appointment and you go, I can't believe I did that. Let's start inventorying What's triggering your inner critic? Sharing something personal, I had this voice that called me an idiot all the time, and I would overcompensate for it by getting all kinds of degrees and proving that I wasn't one. And when I did the release work around that voice and where it came from, it changed my whole life. It changed my sense of self. I started feeling like I didn't need to prove that I was intelligent anymore. And when other people hinted or intimated that maybe I had made a mistake that was less than intelligent, I was able to laugh about it and roll with it. Whereas in the past, I would be very reactive to it. Doing this kind of work, inventorying it first and noticing it is the first part, and getting help with releasing it is the second part. If you have a partner who is coming across very critical, which is not unusual, you need to set boundaries for yourself first, where if you're feeling criticized, whether they mean it or not, you let them know, hey, you know what? I'm not sure what you meant by that, but I'm feeling very criticized right now. I need to take a minute because I'm not in a good place. At first, this may seem very strange to both of you, but over time, when you see that it's leading to a place where you can talk about the dynamic that you have, the conversation that you have, the back and forth that you have without being as triggered, there's huge value in stopping, taking a few deep breaths, and resetting. Next week in this series, or it might be in 2 weeks, I'm not sure if we're running these once a week or running them every other week, we are going to talk about expectations and unrealistic expectations. And I look forward to having you there for that episode on self-sabotage in marriage. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for coming to Rich in Relationship.